Well, hello there, and greetings. Greetings from over Queens, New York. It's your buddy, Admiral Teag. And if you could take a moment out to like and subscribe to this channel if you end up liking what you hear, I would really appreciate it. You know, one pundit who's doing really well on here is our pal Starwarstheory. Starwarstheory, strong with the Star Wars lore is he. He is a great and powerful Jedi lore master and Sith lore master. He knows it all. But, you know, when it comes to theorizing, sometimes his endless optimism for Star Wars can get in the way a little bit of a better theory. And also, he creates a lot of content. So sometimes maybe he's just not got the best stuff to work with. But I thought that this was kind of a really creative attempt. And I like this summation, and I want to try a summation of my own. So let's try listening to the most controversial Star Wars debate by our pal Starwarstheory with 3.31 million subscribers. And this has almost 8,000 upvotes and 83 downvotes. I mean, I guess people don't like Theory just because they think maybe he's a Disney hack, but I don't know that Disney really tells him what to do, because he does criticize a lot of their ideas, but he does also basically tell people that they should go out there and watch the Star Wars product no matter what and judge for themselves. Like, that's the harshest thing you're ever going to get out of Starwarstheory about Star Wars.
We would be honored.
And I needed a beginning this good.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another video. These are some of my favorite videos to make on the channel, simply theorizing about different events and scenarios that happen in Star Wars. I feel like that's where some of the earlier videos of my channel really started to take off, and I started to build a connection with a lot of you guys. So anyways, today I want to talk about why Darth Maul survived but Qui-Gon died, and we're going to go over a lot of different things like how Rey was able to stab Kylo, how Reva survived twice, and so on and so forth. Or rather, maybe debunking a few of those, and explaining my theory on a few others. So let's begin. And before I do, if you could hit the like button, that would be great. So in Star Wars, at this point, we've seen many different deaths of Force users, whether it be Maul being chopped in half in Episode 1, The Phantom Menace by Obi-Wan Kenobi, to Dooku being beheaded by Anakin Skywalker in Revenge of the Sith, or Anakin's fall to Obi-Wan on Mustafar. And then of course later we get the Disney stuff with, you know, how they keep gutting one another and surviving.
Alright, now let's see if Theory endorses this or calls it out.
Rey doing it to Kylo, then healing him. Reva being stabbed twice in the gut, once as a child by Darth Vader in the Jedi Temple during Order 66, and later as an adult.
Yeah, this is where my Star Wars theory, where I counter Star Wars theory, will revolve around these gut shots and Reva.
Adult by Darth Vader again, and surviving both times. With all of these different deaths...
what a weak-ass attacker Darth Vader is with his lightsaber. He couldn't kill a child, and then he fails to kill adult Reva, and he guts her both times. And what a bad Force user. He couldn't sense she was alive.
Most controversial one of them all that I see online, especially after the Disney stuff, is in regards to Qui-Gon's death. Now, Qui-Gon was my favorite Jedi, and I know...
I can't believe this is the most controversial one.
I say this, I say Anakin is my favorite, but at the end of the day, if I ever want to strive to be like someone in Star Wars, it would have to be Qui-Gon Jinn. That's like the character where you want to end up being like, you know, like right now I feel like I'm Anakin, I want to end up being like Qui-Gon.
I don't know, I mean, kind of thought Obi-Wan was pretty cool until that Obi-Wan show.
Older, wiser, and not really following in the lines of the Jedi Order, so to speak. Now, it's no question that if Qui-Gon had survived, the fate of the galaxy would have literally changed. He would have been the father figure Anakin needed in order to battle his demons and not be seduced to the dark side.
Who knows? I mean, he was going to bring Anakin to his own dojo and start doing it freelance. He was like basically starting his own police department by leaving the Jedi. I think he would have ended up getting them both killed when the Jedi proper attacked them for it, because they weren't going to want to go on. Not the way we saw things in Phantom Menace. I couldn't see it.
by Darth Sidious. Palpatine plucked each string so methodically over the teen and young adult years of Anakin's life that by the time it came to trusting the Jedi Council over him, Anakin lost faith in the Jedi and eventually turned to the dark side in order to save his wife. Believing the false promises of
very solid ground here, we all know this to be true,
that Palpatine had to offer, Qui-Gon Jinn, while very powerful, wasn't able to survive his death at the hands of Darth Maul. Now in
so he seems to be legitimizing it.
Separate videos I've gone over why Qui-Gon lost to Maul in a Why Did They Lose series, which I know a lot of you are a fan of, but in today's video I want to discuss something much beyond that. Why couldn't Qui-Gon Jinn have survived where everyone else did, having been stabbed the same way through the stomach and continuing to carry on? But Qui-Gon, the most important Jedi of them all, arguably, to save the fate of Anakin Skywalker and the galaxy, dies. Now, my theory on this is a bit long, so here we go. When a dark side user gets stabbed, such as Maul getting cut in half, or heck, even Reva in the Kenobi series,
he still has not scoffed at what happened to Reva, really, more than... well, he scoffed at it once, but I don't know. I mean, I guess he just doesn't want to go after Star Wars too hard.
We know dark side users feed off of their pain and anger, and what's more painful than being stabbed or cut in half? So with this pain, they are able...
I don't know, Theory. This would mean that the more you hurt a Jedi, the more you hurt a Sith, the higher the chances are that they heal themselves. That's like kind of advocating that you have to like decapitate every Sith.
Able to feed off of it and regenerate their willingness to live. Their anger keeps them going, and it keeps them strong. Maul wanted revenge on Kenobi, and as time passed, he kept getting more and more.
I don't know if that spider creature resurrection was the best. They worked a long time and put a lot of time into it. Not the most exciting time, but I mean, it was at least Lucasy in a way that other stuff since hasn't been. Not the greatest, though.
More insane, filled with rage as he continued.
And Clone Wars, aside from that storyline, is a show I really like.
Thinking about it. Anakin, who got chopped into a torso and burned severely beyond even being able to speak, was able to continue living. And it was...
Theory, don't you think when the Emperor came over and kind of held his hands out and then like conspicuously flexed his palms and fingers out to their, like, over him, and he's still alive, and I think he was kind of giving him a little bit of a forced jump start, but yeah, the Force was part of how Anakin managed to stay alive in sort of like a hate trance, sure.
Once he felt this great amount of pain, did his Sith yellow eyes burn brightly again from the blue that they had just been as he fought Kenobi. And that's also...
is this something that got done inconsistently? This seems to me more an error on the set, because I'm almost positive that we see Anakin crying after he's killed all of the conspirators on Mustafar, and his eyes are yellow at that point before Padme even shows up.
The video I'd like to make on its own is that I don't think Anakin was really tapping into the dark side when he was fighting Obi-Wan. I think he was flickering here and there, but if we remember, his eyes were the whole time just blue. Now, back to Anakin's survival. This was his anger, his pain, hatred, all coming into play for what had just happened to him. And this, in turn, fueled his ability to...
This is pretty hot. I mean, at least he had the...
The last lightsaber winner giveaway won.
Let's see. Okay, we're seeing... I'm checking the scene now to see if Anakin cries as I look at it. When we see Anakin crying, he's looking so hard to one direction in this cut that I can't tell. But I will get back to you in the future.
To carry on. At the end of Return of the Jedi, Vader sacrificed himself to save his son, Luke Skywalker. He transitioned into the light side of the Force, and it was for this reason that he physically died, only to go on to live as a Force ghost forever. Vader...
I don't know if that's his delivery, but the reason he physically died was because the Emperor ran like a city's worth of electricity through him.
Vader kept himself alive in that suit for decades purely off of his own hatred and constant physical
And the suit.
and emotional pain. This is what kept him going. Now, Reva's
And the suit.
surviving. Well, it makes absolutely no sense in either of the two scenarios where she got stabbed, because the first time she got stabbed in the
Thank you, Theory.
torso by Anakin during Order 66, she was a little youngling. Now, she definitely would not have been able to survive such an attack, let alone her Force abilities weren't anywhere near any of the other Jedi Master's abilities, who died the same wounds that she lived through twice. First,
All right, the Star Wars theory. Whatever you go with from here, at least you're being very rational about the Reva thing. So my Reva theory is a pretty hot take. I think you're just scoffing at it, which I scoff at it too. I'm just going to provide an alternative to what we saw, or a way to explain what we saw without headcanon, even though we don't see anything to prove it.
as a youngling, then as an adult. Rey stabbing Kylo, then healing him. I mean, okay, sure, she healed him, but still, he should have been dead from that same stab that Qui-Gon Jinn got. So, why did Qui-Gon Jinn
Well, he's pretty much dying until she brings him back within seconds.
die and no one else did? Well, plot armor. I mean, well, no, hold on. Because he felt it was the will of the Force. Now, of course,
I think it was because Liam Neeson really didn't want to do another Star Wars movie.
Of course, I say plot armor because that's the way George Lucas wrote it. If he wants someone to survive, they'll survive. If he doesn't, he doesn't. But
Well, yeah, I think he always wanted him to die, but I think he wanted him to be a more present Force ghost, and he didn't want to be.
I hate those answers. You know, those are just such typical. Well, they just wrote it that way. Well, yeah, obviously, but why? What is the reason? So let's dive into it a bit. Qui-Gon was a firm believer in not changing the will of the Force, not changing.
I don't know. I don't know. I think he was a strong believer in following that prophecy.
What has already happened. He felt if he channeled his powers in the dark side to hold on to the physical realm, then things would be controlled to his will, bending the Force to his mercy, to what he wants to happen, rather than moving with the Force, dancing
I don't know. This is deep lore.
with the Force, allowing the Force to guide him. In the end, had he not died, he wouldn't have taught Yoda how to become a Force ghost, who then taught Obi-Wan. Qui-Gon Jinn.
I think that Obi-Wan and Yoda's transition and ability to be Force Ghost was gleaned from the same sources that Qui-Gon found. And let's face it, I think that Obi-Wan ended up, aside from that dogshit show, that he was a much more powerful Force user than Qui-Gon ever was. And Qui-Gon didn't go through a long, long war. Okay, the Clone Wars went on for like, what, 8 or 9 years?
And learned how to become a Force ghost from the Wills. Now, he didn't fully finish his training. This is why he never materialized as the way Yoda did or Obi-Wan did as a Force ghost, and we could only
because he didn't want to do it.
Hear his voice. However, of course,
Liam Neeson was not taken with the idea of being a Force ghost until he just wanted money.
Of course, the Obi-Wan show changed that at the end, but that was never really supposed to happen because the whole thing was that he never finished his training, and therefore.
And what a garbage way to just throw him out there. They threw him out there. He was nothing but a member berry. Even their dialogue, just horrible.
Or could never materialize his full self, just his voice. But he was able to teach Yoda and Obi-Wan, and of course, then Anakin
I still
learned from
disagree with
Obi-Wan.
that.
Now, if you're wondering how Anakin.
Obi-Wan and Yoda were going to figure it out from the same texts that Qui-Gon had, and they were much more powerful with the Force when they died than Qui-Gon Jinn ever got to be.
Can learn to become a Force ghost in such a short time. It's revealed in one of the novels, The Rise and Fall of Darth Vader. Of course, all this information is legends, but I literally take everything that was canon during George Lucas's time, and I still consider that canon today.
I subscribe to that theory. That's not a bad idea at all.
Just because Disney says that it's not canon, in my head, doesn't matter. To me, whatever George says is what counts. Because
The theory, again, he's very likable, and most of the time he's right on point. But, you know, this one, he fairly said this is going to be a most
as well.
controversial
He created
debate.
Star Wars. He didn't just buy it and then cancel a whole bunch of stuff to make way for whatever else they want to create. So anyways, in that book, it states that Anakin, as he was dying in front of Luke in Return of the Jedi, Obi-Wan reached out to him through the Force and told him to very quickly do what he is told. And he
Yeah, okay, I know this story from this book.
instructed him how to become a Force ghost in a split second, and that's how Anakin continued to live on as a Force ghost, otherwise he would have ceased to exist. So it was really meant to be for things to go the way they did with Qui-Gon, and
That's really a contrivance, but George Lucas just writes better backfill to his contrivances than other people.
in the end, Anakin did bring balance to the Force by wiping out all the Jedi until it was just Yoda and Luke, Vader and the Emperor. And in the end, this was all it took for the Force to work in mysterious ways and for Luke to eventually be the catalyst that Vader needed to defeat and overthrow the Emperor, thus
Maybe.
fulfilling the Chosen One prophecy. Now, I've had a theory that perhaps Qui-Gon, when he was meditating in front of Darth Maul in The Phantom Menace during the final duel, perhaps he saw all of this.
No. He was trying to remain calm so that he could be more one with the Force. Otherwise, he would have started yelling to Obi-Wan, "Holy fuck! You gotta kill this guy for sure." And we gotta find his boss. Whatever happens to me, you know, train the kid and kill the other Sith Lord. There's more of these guys.
Maybe he witnessed
He would have said. Actually, he might have said, "Kill Anakin."
all of this through the Force, and the Force telling him to go with it, to let go. Whatever happens, to let it happen.
All right, so he's like a surfer when it comes to the Force. Qui-Gon Jinn. It's like he's fast and loose. This is some serious headcanon theory, but okay, you know your lore.
Now, I'm sure he could have fought on, he could have continued fighting. I'm sure Vader could have continued fighting when he was dying in front of Luke. But it
Vader was too juiced up and dead.
was his willingness to let go because he is now on the light side of the Force and to follow the will of the Force instead of fighting and using his anger and hatred to continue his life, which is the Sith way, the dark side way, is what really allowed him to achieve immortality. And
That's like saying no Sith really can die, and I guess you're lining this up with things like what we saw with Palpatine in Rise of Skywalker. I just don't know. Theory, this is a wild one you've uncorked.
allowed the events of the galaxy to play out the way that they were supposed to. Now, Palpatine and Sith Lords in general look pretty disfigured and messed up and old because the dark side really does take a toll on one's body eventually, especially when you're as powerful as Palpatine. So when it comes to fulfilling the prophecy, Anakin did just as Qui-Gon Jinn had foreseen. He is the Chosen One. He will bring balance.
Wow, I don't know.
It's a pretty convoluted way of bringing balance, you know, after killing so many of the Jedi and causing so much turmoil in the galaxy, but hey, I guess it was really the only way that the Force wanted to work. Now,
Alright, we found out from Disney that the Force is like a dick. I guess he's accepting that. The recontextualization of the Force, rather than being this energy field that's just sort of out there that you can commune with, and anyone who's got enough belief in it can kind of commune with, and you know, based on your midichlorians, you'll have maybe some abilities with it, and you know, only like some people had no sense of it at all, but there was enough people out there who could feel the Force that it was generally accepted to be out there, and no one really scoffed at the idea it existed until the Empire comes around and starts putting out their propaganda. And it's 20 years after the Clone Wars that we see Tarkin saying that you're all that's left of that dead religion, my friend. So let's go on with theory.
another thing I'm going to mention real quickly here, because a lot of people get this wrong, is that they think Plagueis created Anakin. He didn't really. He indirectly created Anakin.
Alright, this is key.
So, Plagueis was reaching out in the Force to try and control midichlorians in the dark side to create a perfect dark side being, and the Force answered him back by creating the perfect, well, I guess we could say light side being, by
He's using some Disney logic here, I think. I don't think so. I think what happened was that Darth Plagueis had started the experiment and had picked out, a methodology and had a surefire way of doing it. and maybe like, you know, cloned like a Force goat and then like killed it just to make sure he had it right. And you know, I'm sure Kamino was involved in this one, but the thing is, he's rolling off perfect clone. He's rolling off perfect clones, and all he really needed to do was get his hands onto a host, and that's when he takes that nap that never wakes up from, thanks to his pupil Palpatine. Ironic. But I think that's when Palpatine steps in, and he's the one behind the pregnancy of Shmi. I think that Anakin is a test tube baby, and with force enhanced qualities, and it's like force enhanced sperm. And I can't picture Palpatine having sex. If you can, leave a comment.
Creating Anakin Skywalker. Now, of course, because of Anakin's upbringing and the fact that he didn't have Qui-Gon Jinn to be the father figure and mentor that he needed, and because of his life as a slave for 9 years on Tatooine and losing his mother, he ended up turning to the dark side. However, I do believe if Qui-Gon...
I mean, okay. I mean, that comports with what we saw. That's the story. Yeah, that's okay. That's just summation.
Jinn had survived, Anakin would have continued to be a Jedi, going on to being a Jedi Master, getting a seat on the Council just as he wanted. Padme would have lived.
Yeah, I think Mace Windu fucking hated him.
You know what? Anakin would have probably confided in Qui-Gon Jinn.
They would have found out about his wife, too.
About Padme the entire time, because Qui-Gon had a love of his own.
No, if Qui-Gon stays around, like, the way he's acting and stuff, he's such a swinging dick, and acting like cock of the walk to the Council, and you know, Theory's not remembering that, that it's said by Obi-Wan to Qui-Gon that he would be on the Council if he wasn't such a dick to them all the time, and wasn't such a rebellious, guy with such a radical and sort of slightly unethical in some people's view of the Force. And honestly, it's his unethical view of the Force training Anakin that creates all these problems. And if we're going to take the Disney view of it, I guess it doesn't matter. Anakin was always going to be evil because the Force was creating opposites on either side anyway. So once you created a bad guy, a good guy was going to be created to counter him.
And her name was Tall, and he almost fell to the dark side once when she was murdered.
Really
and so
cool
I think if anyone is going to understand anything like this, it's definitely going to be...
You know, Lucas always had, like, said that, like, it was canon, but dubious canon for his EU. Like, he could disavow anything at any time. And saying that while the stuff's still out there is, you know, that's says how he felt. You know, George Lucas certainly, more than anyone, owned Star Wars and wrote Star Wars. But, you know, certainly we wish he would have had some more co-writers here and there. But let's get to the end of Star Wars Theory's Star Wars Theory.
Qui-Gon. Now, in the new Disney stuff, there's this Jedi who's named Rael Averross, and he was Dooku's apprentice before Qui-Gon Jinn, and he also befriended Qui-Gon, and so Qui-Gon would go to him.
Oh, this is from Tales of the Jedi.
Him for a lot of advice.
I couldn't get past episode 2. Episode 1, Ashoka Super Baby, was fucking horrible.
And Rael was like a real loose cannon. He literally did everything the opposite of what any Jedi would normally do. So I feel like even Qui-Gon being friends with Rael would have him be a little open-minded about things and about how the Force really works. So that's what I think about Qui-Gon Jinn dying. Yes, it was plot armor, of course, but at the end...
He died. How is it plot armor?
End of the day, he felt it was the will of the Force for him to die, and that...
what he's saying, he could have gotten angry and healed himself? No, Theory.
That was what was supposed to happen. Now, why Obi-Wan Kenobi didn't use Force speed, why no one used Force heal on him, why the
abilities from the sequels, I think.
Jedi didn't send more Jedi to help Obi-Wan and
Your single biggest mistake was not buying Shmi Skywalker out of slavery and allowing her to be killed by the Sand People, while her fate was really kind of not totally her own for a lot of years leading up to it. You know, she was sort of free when it happened, but not because the Jedi sent someone there to deal with Wadu and help her out, because Klee Lars bought her out of slavery. If they had freed her, if the Jedi had freed Shmi Skywalker and she had died the same way, Anakin wouldn't have the Jedi to blame. Don't ask me, where's the comic book about Palpatine not approving the petty cash? I refuse to give this money to buy the slave.
Qui-Gon Jinn. Well, that last answer was at least figured out in Star Wars Tales of the Jedi, where the Council didn't really believe that a Sith Lord had returned. And that's another video that I want to go over because they were stupid and they basically killed Qui-Gon Jinn through their own arrogance and lack of believing in one of their most esteemed Jedi Masters. But anyways, the Force works in mysterious ways. I want to know what you guys think. Why do you think Darth Maul survived? Why do you think Qui-Gon Jinn died? Do you agree with Reva surviving twice?
Okay, Darth Maul survived because George Lucas just couldn't rein Dave Filoni in and had really maybe just didn't care for a moment there, or just got worn down from hearing it. He survived because he sold a lot of merch. I think Reva survived because it was written like shit.
Nice. What are some other deaths in Star Wars that you thought were a little bit weird or unbelievable compared
Leia's
to some other deaths or survivals? Thanks as always for watching this video.
Space Leia's life and the death of Leia later, most unbelievable 2 moments of the entire Star Wars saga.
Leave a like if you enjoyed it, check me out on Spotify, and I'll see you all in the next one. Until then, my fellow Jedi and Sith friends, remember, the Force will be with you.
Alright, so Starwarstheory, a great guy, very personable, a great host, certainly, we all aspire to be that smooth with the delivery, and he had some great video going the whole time, and the link is in the description for Theory's great video, and you probably have already watched it, and you've probably already subbed him, but it's not a crime to do either one, and I do both. I like him. I don't know. I'm good. The bar has been raised. Starwarstheory has 3.3 million subs. I don't need to like this particular hot take because I don't like it. My Star Wars theory is a little different from his. I would have said Qui-Gon Jinn was always supposed to be a more present Force ghost. If you had left him alive, it's just him and Anakin at some dojo, maybe on that island from The Last Jedi. I guess it was at least a cool location. No. I think what happened was that Obi-Wan and Yoda had just lost to the Emperor, and then they employed a long game against him that was exactly the same plan that the Emperor had just used to take control. That there were these Force-powerful children, and you were going to let them grow up and use them as the means to dethrone the Emperor. So I would say that the way that Qui-Gon reappears is garbage, and we've got way too much fanfic from Disney woven in here. But before I go, I'm going to give you my Reva explanation without having to change the story. Just, I guess someone would have to say it later, but here's the deal. The first stabbing is the only one that you have to really scoff at if they do this fix. Maybe after Vader does what she does to him, maybe she's the first Sith ghost. It would explain how she got to the planet before people who left the planet where she was stabbed fatally on before that. Because the idea she survives is too far-fetched. Make her the first ever Sith ghost. Anyway, this is your buddy, Admiral Teag. I hope that you'll find time to like and sub this channel. And thank you so very much for coming by. And thank you to my 53 subs. Every ship in the fleet makes us more powerful. Please consider joining. We're stronger with you than without you. It's your buddy, Admiral Teag, signing off.